Howdy, folks. I'm Nim Jickles. This is the Ain't That a Bitch podcast. I think we're hitting episode 9 now. This is a little double recording, so this is being recorded the same day as the last episode, but they'll still be coming out, 1 week at a time. Just trying to make up for some lost time. I'm joined here right now by my dog, Plato. A lot of people, no, not a single person I've ever met, or who has met our dog has been able to figure out his name on the first time, because they all immediately assume that it's Play-Doh, the toy, which honestly would probably make a lot more sense. Our dad, ever the enthusiast about his work, wanted to name our dog after the philosopher Plato. Apparently he's got a... Oh, Jesus. Alright, I don't know if you can hear him. He's jingling about a little bit, but anyways... apparently Plato had a quote. He said something one time that a philosopher is like a dog, because like afraid of what it doesn't know and attracted to what it does. Which, no offense to Plato, I know this was a very long time ago, but yeah, no fucking shit. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Everyone is scared of what they don't know and attracted to what they do. Like, alright, good job. Nice observation. Anyways. That's besides the point. Hello. He's real cute, but he's also a pain in the ass. To any of you pet owners out there, you'll understand. But our dog, he can be a lot like a cat sometimes. And I don't know if other dogs are like this. If you have a little dog, because he's a little dog. He's a medium little dog. But, like, I was under the impression that this was mainly a cat trait. But, if you're looking at something, working with something, typing on a keyboard, you're looking at anything that you have laid out on the ground that you're looking at, he'll go and sit his ass right on it immediately if he finds it, because he just wants to be a center of attention. I mean, that's no surprise. I guess that's a common dog thing, but I've never seen a dog to that extent. He jumps up, walks all over your stuff like an asshole, but man, he looks cute doing it, so. Oh, what are you gonna do? Anyways, it's enough of that. So, more news in the new year. Also, man, this thing is gonna come out so much past when we're recording it, so I don't even know they might not even be still alive, but, fucking Meghan and Harry, royal fellas, wanted to move to Canada. Funny thing, most interesting thing about this news is that no one gives a shit. And I really like seeing that. I really like seeing the memes and the jokes about it. About the survey that some news article did of like how Canadians feel if Meghan and Harry move to Canada. If you don't know, Meghan and Harry, where are they on the royal line? Goddamn. Elizabeth's still alive somehow. She was supposed to die January 5th, I think, of 2019. I think so. Yeah. But that means a year old already? Holy Christ. So she's supposed to be dead already. And then her son is Charles? Prince Charles? His son is Prince William. My brother's name. Doesn't get confusing at all. People always think that we were named after the princes, that our parents named us, me after Charles and my brother after Prince William. Fuck no. We're from America. We don't give two shits about the royal family. We also didn't know who they were until we moved to Canada. Canadian people and their royalty. That said, like I was just saying, so Harry, I don't know, is that William's son or something? I don't know how there's this many generations. I mean, because she's the queen, whatever. They don't, you guys shouldn't get to live that long. Royalty is just, God, it's so bogus. You've done absolutely nothing other than be born. All you are is either a very special lady's vagina or a very special man's dick. That's the only thing special about you. Well, fuck. Now, here's my question. If you were to become blood brothers or blood sisters, so that's when you prick yourselves and get a little bit of blood into each other's bloodstream. Old tradition, like, kids back in the day when they were like swallowing lead for dinner and stuff, and they could do whatever the fuck they want. Now if you so much as like touch the saliva of another child, you'd immediately get Ebola and die. Or that Chinese virus we were just talking about. But regardless, so that was actually like a thing that people would do to become blood brothers or blood sisters. If you were to do that with a member of the royal family, would that move you up in line to inherit the throne? That's what I wonder. Food for thought. Anyways, so Harry, somewhere in that big fucking dumbass, obligatory, obsolete nothingness family, never gonna be king, let's be honest, because Elizabeth's gonna live for another 30 years, probably, for some reason. And then after that, I guess Charles gets it for another 500 years until he finally dies. And then William might get it for like 30 years, and then the world's going to explode. And that's going to be the end of that. So, sorry, Harry. But regardless, him and his... She's an actress or something? Megan? Something? Or was that... One of them... There was one of them who was like, that was a big deal. Oh, they finally married out of the royal family. They're not fucking... incest inbreeding anymore, and they married just like some celebrity.
Megan is the celebrity, but I don't know if she's an actor.
Oh, okay. Something. Probably like an Instagram model or something. Probably not. But anyways, they're wanting to move to Canada. I guess that's a pretty typical British thing, right? They establish a colony, they leave for like 4 centuries, and then they just come back every now and then, drop in to check on them. Do you think the Queen even remembers Canada? Do you think she ever is just like what is her relationship with our country? Because Canada is still, to a certain degree, a British subject, right? We have all this shit. When you become a citizen, you swear allegiance to the Queen. She gets, essentially, at some level, of veto power over our legislature, I think. She got some representative in our country who can basically do whatever the hell they want, and the Queen just appoints them. Do you think, though, that the Queen actually has any hand in any of that? Or if it's just like, every few years, like one of her butlers or whatever comes, and she's like, Your Highness, the Canadians require a lieutenant general. And she's like, oh, fuck this again. What the hell is it this time? It's like, oh, those silly Canadians again. And then they just give her like a dartboard, and she just throws it, and it lands on one of the names that they put up for her, and that becomes our new lieutenant general. Also, by the way, why the fuck do you call it a lieutenant? You cannot make fun or mock or insult or have any issues with the way Americans spell things. If you pronounce something that's spelled, what is it, Lieut? There's not an F, not a PH to be found. Where do you get lieutenant from? It doesn't... I don't know. Language, though, to be in your defense, it's the Brits that started it all. English is a goddamn travesty of a language. And I think I mentioned this before, but it just seems to be, I guess it's just a function of size and usage. More people that speak a language, the worse it gets. And I've talked about this with Chinese. Most widely spoken language in the world. Easily the worst, most difficult language to learn in the world. Learning to write, Japanese could very well be harder. Learning to speak, there are some really difficult languages like Greek and stuff, but per amount of people that speak it, Mandarin is just the worst language for as many people that speak it, because, like I said, it's the most widely spoken language in the world and one of the hardest. Not the hardest, but for the amount of people that speak it, just adopt an alphabet already. You're making life so much harder for everyone else. But that's beside the point. What I'm saying is English going down a very similar problem. And I can only assume it's the British Empire's fault of they spread out too far. They're trying to put English into every fucking island they can find. And everyone's got their own version of it. So it gets changed around, it gets moved around. It just doesn't make any sense. And the reason it makes no sense is because it's just English. Like, if you ever look into any language or anything, which why would you? Because it's a fucking bore for most people. For some reason it interests me. I don't know. But if you look at it, there's, you'll probably know about the Romance languages, which is languages that are derivative of Latin. Latin, super weird. You know what else is weird? Latin, how is it a dead language, but you can still learn it? It doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't know the definition of a dead language, but if you ask me, I would say if you can learn a language and speak words in that language, it's not dead yet. But regardless, Latin was a starting point for tons of European, mainly Western European languages, almost entirely. And then Eastern Europe is basically all derivative of Germanic and Slavic languages. So when it comes down to it, all you really got is Rome, Germany, and Russia. That's pretty much where language comes from, which I guess makes some sense. But regardless, they've all spread out. So Russian has become Romanian, Moldovan, any other thing you can imagine. They're all pretty much the same thing. German is like German, and then whatever they speak in Switzerland, which is also just German. It's just German. It's just a lot of different German, pretty much. I mean, there are Germanic languages, but I'm just being... And then the Romance languages, you got Spanish, French, Portuguese, and I would argue English. But that said, English takes inspiration from... It also has Germanic elements in it. I don't think we really have any Russian in our language. I would guess not. But there's definitely a lot derived from Latin, a bit from Greek, and a fair bit from German. So I guess it's not strictly a Romance language. My question is why? I mean, and the only reason... Here's the way I see it. When English first became a language, the British wasn't an empire yet, because they had to start somewhere. It's not like they started conquering places and then were like, we should speak a language. There was English, and there was Spanish, and there was Portuguese, and there was French, and there was all the rest. And then English is the one that spread fucking everywhere. But here's my question. When did Britain spread to Germany? When did they pick up the Germanic elements? Or, hell, the Mediterranean? They went to India. There's no Indian elements, or Hindu elements, or they have several languages. But anyways, none of those are in English. Like, we didn't pick up any of the native terms from North America. That was all the shit that was in English was already there by the time they started going everywhere. So, like, the inherent fuck-ups in the English language, don't understand them. I mean, I'm sure there's a backstory behind it. It's not just, like, a stupid thing, but it's a pretty fucking stupid thing. Other thing is, of course, English is the most difficult language to understand because of all the places that Britain went to, What doesn't make any sense to me is, look, I know wherever you are, is whatever accent you have is the one that sounds like no accent, because it's what you're used to. But look, let's be honest. Canadian and American English is it's a real language. British English is a completely different language. It can't possibly be English. I mean, that's where the language started. How can they be so bad at pronouncing it? To be fair, China has the same issue. They have Mandarin, it's a language, and then there's so many different ways. It's just such a vast country with so many different people that they develop dialects. And then Cantonese is an entirely different language, but it's still very much based off it. Britain doesn't do that. They don't bother with that. They're just like, it's all English, but this is Worcestershire English. This is fucking Liverpool English. This is Welsh English, Irish English, South American English. Everything is different. They're all so different. Tell me, can you even understand people from Wales or Scotland? Hardly. Or people from South Africa? It's barely the same language. But England, Britain, England, UK, without all the colonies and territories they took over, just England, the country where English is supposed to be the language, They even fuck up their own language. This is where the language came from. How can they say it wrong? I know I compared it to China, right? I said they have the same issue. Well, have you ever looked at China on a map and put it next to Britain? I should say, have you seen the thing? It's a goddamn postage stamp. I get it. There's a way higher population density than the North America. Whatever. Sure. Great. It's still not that many people. It's still not that many places. England, there's literally different accents in different communities of England. Every city speaks English in its own way. And honestly, I'm just looking for the ones that speak it normal, because there's got to be some place where they at the very least pronounce things right. Case in point, Britain has a T in it. T is a sound. Plenty of languages have a T sound. English is one of them. English has a T sound. It sounds like T. But there are people who speak English, older English than American English, which, by the way, American, Canadian English, you can understand the T's perfectly fine, right? But there are people in England, which is where the language originated, who can't say Britain. They say Britain. No T sound whatsoever. So if you're from that part of England, I would argue that you're speaking less English than Americans and Canadians are. Okay? Or South Americans, or the people in India who are English. All right? Like, no, fuck you. If you can't pronounce one of the letters in the alphabet, you're not speaking the full language. You're speaking 26ths of the language. All right? You're almost there. Not quite. There's people who can't pronounce the TH. This is absolutely absurd, because you know what? One of the worst things about English for teaching it to other people is the TH. Very few other languages have that sound. Incidentally, I think it might have come from Greek, because Greek is one of the languages that does have a TH sound, except they were smart about it. I have to do this. Greek, I think I mentioned this before as well. Greek is a very difficult language. The word structures don't make any sense to me. I haven't actually studied the language, so I wouldn't know. But I do know the alphabet, and their alphabet makes perfect fucking sense. And it's really simple, and it proves my point that I've been saying about everything that goes wrong, which is there's a way to make it right. There's a way to do it, and it's usually really simple. People are just too fucked up to understand. Like, same thing with China. They don't even have an alphabet to begin with. English just has a terrible one. Even Spanish, we're learning, like, we were taking Spanish, they have an extra letter, che. They spell it C-H, with 2 letters, which I don't know how that happened. I don't know what the origination of that is, but it makes more sense than a C and an H. It's just one letter, C-H, the ch sound. Because C, as much as I love it, it's my letter, it's a fucking stupid letter. I have said this before. It either sounds like a C, an S, or a K. And if you put it with some other things, it can make some other sounds, like CH. Just cut out the C, or just make the C always the CH sound. And if you want an S or a K sound, use an S or a K. Case in point, Greek has a 24-letter alphabet. 2 less letters than English, more sounds covered by it. We have so many redundant sounds. I mean, it's overall less sounds, but it's all the sounds they need. Their letters don't change, which I guess would explain why their words are so long and difficult to learn. So, like, you know, that's the quid pro quo. That's the win some, you lose some. But I think it's preferable, because when you're learning language at a basic level, all right, you haven't learned any complex words or anything, you're just learning the alphabet, it makes more sense. They don't have shit in E. Long E makes the vowel say its name. They don't have any of those rules. It's phonetic, okay? You see the letter, you sound it out. You can say, if you learn the alphabet in Greek, you can say any word that you read. You just won't know what it means, which is the hard part, of course. So what I'm trying to get at is they have a letter theta. That's the TH sound. It makes a th sound. So if you ever see a theta, it's one letter and it makes a TH sound. If you see the letter omicron, that's the short O. That's an aw sound, omicron. If you see an omega, it's the long O, omega, O. So if you're reading a word, you don't have to be like, oh, let's see if there's a fucking E at the end of the word to see if the O is going to say its name or if it's going to be an aw sound. It's just what the letter is. You read it like the letter is. It's phonetic. Remember when, I think I definitely have said this, phonetic isn't a phonetic word. PH, bullshit. Just use an F. Just use an F. I don't even know if Greek has an F sound, but whatever, you don't need one. Anyways, Greek aside, alphabet makes way more sense. English is stupid. Other thing about English, they can't pronounce, I was just talking about F. There's people who can't pronounce TH. They say it as an F. They say, thank you. Oh, it's thank you. I don't know what the fuck else those people say other than thank you. I've never heard someone with that accent say anything other than thank you. That's what they say. And it's a funny accent. It's kind of an adorable accent, but man, is it dumb. If you speak that and you tell someone, I speak English, I can't pronounce the TH sound, you are dumb. Real dumb. Where does this come from? Where does this inability to speak come from? It's like everyone in the goddamn city has the same speech impediment. Look, I get it. Accents and dialects are a thing. It's regional. New York, Boston, East Coast accents are... Here, by the way, here we go. America has tons of accents. It's actually a big country, so it kind of makes a little more sense. Canada has really just like a couple, right? They got like Midwest, coastal, and like Maritimes, right? That's mainly. And Midwest, really, it's not intense. Like, part likes to make fun of it, and I guess if you're really in a rural place, you can really tell. But people I speak to in Alberta, it's pretty much just American English. It's very similar. People from the Maritimes, you can tell a little bit more. But like in the U.S., you can be in Austin, Texas. You can be in one of the biggest cities. They're still gonna sound super redneck, right? Not that said, if you go rural, it is even more intense. But regardless, and they have a lot of. I'll be honest, they have a lot of subtleties too. There's like if you go to Louisiana, where my dad's side of the family is mainly from. Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas. That's incidentally, the fucking Maritimes in Canada at some point came down and created Louisiana, and so they're goddamn as French as it gets. I think I've mentioned this, but I can't believe that I moved from, my life has gone from Texas to Canadian Texas and French America to, Canada, which is discount France and England. So I went from the Frenchest part of America to a country that's pretty French, and I went from Texas to the most Texas part of Canada. It's like I didn't even move. Regardless, so in Louisiana, you got it. They don't have a French accent, I'll tell you that. But they do have an accent, which I guess is somewhat derivative from French, and they use a couple of French expressions. But they, in just that one little tiny state, really, no one really gives a shit about Louisiana. But they have like Bayou. They have Cajun, which is, by the way, Acadian. That's what they've butchered it into, is just Cajun. But then they also have like just a Southern accent, and I don't even know what they're called, but they have like 3 accents in just one little tiny state. Texas, there's a very, very standard Texas accent that you think of, but they got Southern, which is different from redneck, which is different from hillbilly. Like they're all different in their own ways. But what I was actually talking about was East Coast accents are easily some of the strongest and easiest to do, in my opinion, and arguably most ugly. I've heard a lot of people say that they dislike Boston accents heavily, like they sound very gross. I think they're just fun to listen to. I don't know if I ever actually met a person who spoke with a really strong Boston accent. It might annoy me, but I just think they're fun. So those, of course, are all actually came from Italian, by the way, another Romance language I forgot to mention. Well, it's Italian. Italy was before Rome, which Rome is in Italy, and then they speak Latin instead of Italian, so it's really weird what came from what. Regardless, the Italians that came to America all ended up in the East Coast because that's where the coast is. I don't really know why it was the Italians specifically. Well, anyways, that's beside the point. The Italians gave the East Coast accents are all from Italy, right? So it was the Italians that started speaking English. Basically, Italian people came to America, they were speaking their Italian accent, so just like think Mario. But then Mario, is on drugs and turns to a life of crime. You get Italian mobster. you get Boston and New York accents. That's basically all there is. It's like, I guess it's like if you cross an Italian American with like a black dude, and then it's just all of New York and Boston. In the South, if you actually, and a little bit in New York as well, Boston is totally Italian. New York a little bit, and in the South, if you really, really stretch your mind, you can kind of hear British. Because the South, I don't know why the South is like the more British part of America. There's like a whole thing. They say they're really polite there, and that's like apparently a British thing. I don't really get it, but I don't want to do the accent right now. But if you really listen to it, there's just, I don't know, it's like tangy British. That said, they can still all pronounce their T's. They can all pronounce their THs. Don't step on that chord. Sorry, he's smart. You can let him out if you want. Anyways, I don't know. Look, like, the hardest to understand accents is, like I was saying, those East Coast accents. You can still understand. You can understand almost everything they say. It's not entirely true. But you damn sure hear the sounds, the letter sounds. British English, not real English. A lot of them isn't. You ever listen to Scottish people speak English? They pronounce like 3 of the letters in the alphabet. I saw this thing, maybe you've heard of, where it's this thing where you get a Scottish person to try and say a classic English tongue twister. And this is really funny because it's an English tongue twister. Like, the point of tongue twisters is it's intentionally abusing the language to fuck with you as much as possible when you try and speak it. But it's still designed to be sayable because it's the English language. It's supposed to sound like the words, which is why it's hard to say. But if you get a person who's speaking like the Gaelic English, it just sounds like nothing. And specifically, you can do it with just about any tongue twister, but the one that really is good is Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter, so Betty bought a bit of better butter to make the bitter butter better. Okay? Butter, bitter, better, bit of, and Betty. Similar sounding words, makes it very difficult to say. Like I was saying about the T sounds, if you say it with a Scottish accent, it's just like you're saying the same sounds over and over again. You hardly are saying a different word. Like, I can try and do it. If you're actually from Scotland, it's hilarious because that's how you would say it. If you're doing the accent, though, you still get the same idea. Basically, it was just sound like make a bit. It's just B sounds. It's just going ba over and over and over again. And I'm not kidding. If you've ever heard a Scottish person talk, that's how they sound. Other issue I have with Scots and Irish and everyone in that fucking Gaelic region. Look, I love you guys. I get it. You got it tough. You had potatoes. Potatoes was your only thing, and then they all died out. You had a bunch of trees, and then they all got cut down. The British hate you for like no reason other than that you're Catholics. It's really weird. Everyone's Catholic now, but British really hated Catholics. Doesn't make any sense to me. British Empire took over everything, spread everything. They put their language everywhere. They put their dicks everywhere, and everyone's now, there's lasting impact of the British Empire all over the place, and it sucks for everyone. Couldn't get their religion. They were all Protestants, and the French were Catholics. The Irish were Catholics, and America, Canada, North America, it's Catholic. I mean, yeah, there's Protestants somewhere, but main part, if you're a Christian, you're probably Catholic Christian. It's really weird. That's beside the point. Irish people, folks, love you guys. You like your beer, you like your potatoes. I can respect that. But damn, what are you thinking with bagpipes? The shittiest instrument. As someone who tries to enjoy music to a certain degree, just because it makes it easier to play, you know, if you have to practice piano, it's good to convince yourself to like it a little bit. Goddamn, bagpipes are just hell devices. They're not instruments. Like, someone in Ireland was given a gift by the devil, and they mistook it. They were so blackout drunk that they mistook it for a musical instrument and started playing it. And everyone just fell in line. Guess it's an instrument. he's playing a local instrument. They use it for like it's used for formal events. Okay, the last time I heard one, the reason I realized this was at the Veterans Tea thing that we did for Remembrance Day here. They played the bagpipes. They play the bagpipes for like funerals, for solemn events, for anything to do with the military, pretty much. Either bagpipes or like those big trumpets. And god damn it, they sound horrendous. You're not respecting anyone. Okay, that's how you're gonna raise the dead, if anything, with fucking bagpipes. You know what a bagpipe sounds like? You probably don't, because if you ever have heard one, it's just like noises, okay? It doesn't sound like music. It doesn't sound like anything but noises. But I took it upon myself. I put myself through the torture of dissecting the sound. The reason a bagpipe is special, technologically, not technologically, but like, mechanically, it's an interesting instrument. I'll give it that. Because what it is it's making sound in a somewhat similar fashion to other instruments. I mean, it's a little weird because that's the bag part. The pipe part is nothing original. The bag is interesting because that just holds the air. Anyways, but the real thing with it is it allows you to play 2 notes at once with a blown instrument. So, obviously if you're playing something like a piano or a guitar or something with strings, you can just pluck 2 instruments at once. Any air instrument, you generally are left with just the one. So I guess it makes sense for someone to sit out and be like, I want to design an instrument that you can blow and make 2 notes at once. I don't know why every generic person I do an impression of just sounds like Michael Caine. Anyways, because I don't know how to do an Irish accent, that's a problem. Irish. The only Irish accent I can do, or close to, is that elf from Arthur Christmas. I don't know if you've watched that, but if I ever... I don't know, if you try to do an accent, for me, if I want to do an accent that I'm not really good at just going into, like some British ones and some, and like the Italian mobster, I have to say something. I have to say a quote that in my brain connects me to that accent. And this is going to sound really bad, but if I wanted to, this is going to sound really, really bad. If I want to try and imitate like an African-American accent, I have to say, I'm Miles Morales from Into the Spider-Verse. And that's how I do my Miles voice. And it's the only way I can get into it. If you just like tell me to do an accent, I can't say it. Australian, I can usually do. Australian, they have so many expressions. I just say something. I just be like kangaroo. I'm in an Australian accent. Where was I going with it? If I want to do Irish, the only way I can get into it is if you ever watch Arthur Christmas, I have to say there's can't fucking do it. There's an elf in Arthur Christmas who I don't even know if that's an Irish accent, but it gets me into it, which is she's this elf that's fucking obsessed with wrapping presents. That's her job, is she wraps the presents, okay? One of her lines from the movie is I'm fucking losing it just thinking about it. She says, "There's always time for a bow." That was horrendous. I butchered it because I was laughing through it. I can't do it. But she just says, "There's always time for a bow." And that, if I ever try to do an Irish accent, that's the closest I can get, is saying that and then whatever I want to say. I don't know if they allow you to do that in the recording booth for a voice actor, but anyways, I'm losing it. Irish folk, yeah, why the fuck did they invent bagpipes? They thought, okay, let's try and invent a wind instrument that you can play 2 notes at once. First of all, you can't manipulate both notes at once. It's understandable. There's like certain flute instruments that you can play that are like just like recorders. You stick them in your mouth and it's just doubled. And you can it's like essentially playing 2 recorders at once. All right, fair enough. The bagpipe, the point of it is you're blowing into one thing and you're getting kind of several sounds really, but the main thing is while your hand is doing whatever the melody you want to be, which is I think just like typical horn fingerings, and I say horn, but I mean like flute, woodwind instruments, flute, clarinet, whatever. And then you're also blowing air through this other tube. If you've ever seen bagpipes, this is just a bunch of pipes out of there. And again, I haven't actually looked into it, like what it actually is, this is just based on my observations. What I hear is one held note. Okay. I don't remember what it's called. Pedal point. It's just a sustained note throughout, and then whatever the melody is that they're playing. Now, this is an actual thing that happens in music. You just have something that's either playing one long note throughout or repeating the note over and over again. And then while the other parts, whatever, if you're on piano, your other hand or whatever, is just playing other shit. And it just, I guess, it's supposed to give it a feeling of, like, this is the home key, this is the note that you're going to return to at some point or something. On a bagpipe, it doesn't work at all. It's just one note that's being played while everything else is being played. Sounds nothing like it and doesn't work with it at all. So literally the effect, and this is the whole point of a bagpipe, is to get the effect of while everything else is going wah. And if you can put those two together in your head, that's what a bagpipe sounds like all the time, constantly, every time you play it. It's intentionally horrid. It's constantly out of tune. There is no tuning for it, I don't think. I don't know what a bagpipe is supposed to sound like in tune. Is it supposed to sound good? Like I say, as far as I can tell, the only purpose of it is to play a pedal point while doing whatever else you're playing. But the pedal point doesn't sound good. The melody doesn't sound good. Every note sounds out of tune. So what is the point? What are you achieving through it? Bagpipes, man. Don't understand it. Close it all the way. Aiden, how long did I just talk about bagpipes for?
I would say like 10 minutes.
10 minutes about bagpipes? That's not terrible. I was talking about Harry and Meghan, actually. Totally got off track. Back to the royal family. The funniest thing, the best part about Harry and Meghan supposedly thinking about moving to Canada is that apparently everyone in Canada doesn't give a shit. And that's good. That was really refreshing for me to see because, like I say, since I moved here, I've been kind of under the impression that you guys actually care about your royal family. And the government certainly tries to. Like I said, they got all these things in place where the British Empire still somehow, the crown still somehow has influence over the decisions you guys make if she ever wanted to, which she very clearly does not. And you still gotta swear to the queen and all these other things. But so I was just thinking when I first moved here, it was like, well, shit, I actually think that this matters, that any of this is relevant. No, apparently not. I don't know if you guys have seen that survey, but it's like, it's been made into a meme. It's like someone asked, it's like, what do you think of, or would you want Harry and Meghan to move to Canada? And it's like 23% or something said yes, and like 30 something percent said no, but like 50 something percent said don't care. So most people either don't want them to or don't care, and I'm totally behind that. Like, fuck off. Don't bring. I'm sure they're lovely people, but they are part of Britain, and we don't want your outside problems here. Canada right now, whatever you think about what's happening in the politics, the economics, the whatever, doing pretty well for themselves. U.S. is practically at all-out war and about to lose their president. Britain is just so British. Australia's on fire. China's diseased. Like, Russia's probably doing fine. They'll be fine as long as Putin's the president for the next 60 years. So, yay Russia and Canada. That's pretty much it. We the North, as they say. We're just protected from all the terrors of the world. Insects, disease, politics, apparently. So yeah, Canada's actually doing fine. So don't bring your shit here. Don't bring your people. Don't bring your royal family. Don't bring your problems. We don't want any part of it. Honestly, if you guys knew what you're doing, you'd just leave it all alone. That would work out for the best, I think. So yeah, don't come here. Harry and Meghan, you're fine. Just stay in Britain. Like I said, just drive to the next town and it's like a completely different country, Or go somewhere in Europe. Fuck. You guys have all the money, alright? If you really want to go somewhere nice, go to like fucking Sweden or Switzerland, any of those northern, Nordic, like any of those Scandinavian countries. have you ever looked at those lists? They're always at the top of highest quality of life, highest quality of education, highest, like, best everything, best air quality, best food, best shit, cleanest environment. Only problem is it's expensive as fuck. They're like borderline socialists because you have pay so much in taxes and housing costs so much. But damn, it worked. Like, people who can afford to live there, it's apparently great. I have not heard anyone complain. Also, I haven't heard anyone talk about it at all. That's part of it, I guess. When's the last time you heard? Do you even know anyone who lives in Sweden or Switzerland? I think we met 2 people from Switzerland when we were in China one time that were touring. I think that was like half the population of the country right there. It's like, oh yeah, we go back home to our family, also the rest of the country. No one lives there, which is why it's great. All right, if every country had as low a population as those places, we could all be great like that. So if you want to go have a nice life, live in an actually good place, go to one of those countries. You can afford it. I mean, fuck. And like, I don't know, bring them some tourism or something. Bring them something. They probably don't want tourism, to be honest, because I don't think that'll do them any good. I don't know, just help them. They deserve it more than any of us shithead superpowers. I mean, Canada's is higher than, they deserve it more than most countries, at least. America, Russia, China, as I say, North Korea. But, man, and just, I don't know. I really don't know what to do. If things are so fucked, if we wanted to fix shit, the fastest, simplest, most surefire way, and honestly, everything else that we're trying to do, and we're trying, and I can appreciate that, but let's be real. Most of those things are definitely more than a 50% chance going to just end up being for nothing. They might slow down the inevitable. They might help things, and at least you can say you tried. But if you really wanted to fix the shit that's going wrong in the world, mass genocide. It's just the easiest way. It's very straightforward. It's very surefire, and it makes perfect sense. All the third world countries, wipe them out. Iran, Iraq, North Korea. North Korea is actually... See, the ones I just said, like the Middle East and shit, they're actually military powers. So that would be a little more difficult. I would start with Latin America. Basically go anywhere south of the U.S. and just wipe them all out. India's next. Man, India is so... Look, I know a lot of Indian dudes at Wisewood. There's a lot of those kids there. And I try not to say anything to not offend them. But man, you guys have arguably the worst country. It is a shithole. My grandparents went there. They have visited all over the world. They've been to Africa, okay? Africa, notorious for starving children and shitty living conditions. And they're like, no, India's a shithole. And it is. Look, say what you will. They have plumbing. They shit on the streets. They have internet and Wi-Fi. They pray to cows. What the fuck? They have no infrastructure except for the largest building in the world. They have no economy except for the richest people in the world. They are so fucking fucked. The entire country is just on the brink of collapse. Implosion, okay? It's gonna collapse inward. It's gonna cave in on itself. And, honestly, the nicest thing you could do is just give them a little push. If we just expedite the process a bit with a few bombings, what are you gonna do, right? Like I said, there's no infrastructure to damage, okay? All it is a bunch of unused toilets. Or, better yet, just gas the place. I don't know. Look, we can find something humane, all right? Just like, people love putting shit in India, apparently. Like, Nanda was just talking about, they put toilets in all their houses, and they still shit in the streets. Why? Like, we talk about fucking assholes in America and whatever who are have no sense of self-consciousness about, like, I was just talking about littering on the streets, and you just throwing shit on the ground. How do you just see that and be like, that's okay? Well, by the same token, how do you just take a dump on the road and be like, that's okay, that's normal? say all you want about culture and it's just their way of life. It's a real shitty way of life. No pun intended. So, you like putting stuff in their house so much, give them all an oven. Or like put in every Indian household, put an oven or an air conditioning unit or a heater or something. Whatever they think they might need. They're probably never going to use it. Just put it in there. And have all of them rigged so that after about a few months, maybe a year, they all deteriorate just at the right rate so that once they go, they all fail simultaneously, wiping out maybe half of the population of India through carbon monoxide poisoning. It's a peaceful, painless, completely undetectable way to go. No one would know. Half of them would just die in their sleep. There'd be no pain whatsoever. There would be no panic. They wouldn't even know what's happening. And honestly, they just think that they had done something wrong and the gods were angry. It'd just be like Bird Box or whatever. Like, it's just some rapture shit happening. It's like just Noah's Ark. These things happen and we'd be like a 500 million people less on the world. That's a pretty good start. And the rest of them just bomb the shit out of them. Then we're 1 billion people down in the world population. And then after that, now you got a fully empty country. Now we start slowly moving people from the Middle East into there. And then as they arrive, give them a few more months, maybe a year. And then they'll all slowly have a series of tragic accidents and natural disasters and catastrophes that all seem to just happen in that one little part of India. We slowly filter people through the country to be killed. Then, after that, we're like, we're rocking it, right? Okay, so now all the military, all the poor little starving, malnourished, abused, on the run refugees from the Middle East, now they're all gone too. They got nothing left to worry about. Next thing you gotta do is now we got all of Asia cleared up pretty much. China is getting overpopulated. They can just just put all of Hong Kong in like part of India. They'll be happy. They get their own country. And then like all the Chinese who are sick and tired of getting killed by the disease, they can go to India too. So then you got maybe a third of China as well as all of Hong Kong in India. And so now China is a third less populated. Perfect. Middle East also less populated. And the only people still alive have guns. Now we go to South America and Central America. Honestly, the islands shouldn't even be a problem. All we gotta do is just look. You don't even need to use a bomb, to be perfectly honest. I'm fairly certain that if you took, let's say this, if you were to take Cuba, I have a better idea. If we were to take Quebec, and I've been saying this for years, and we were to just laser cut Quebec out from the country of Canada, just cut the whole thing out, right along the border, and then right down to the core, through the entire tectonic plate, and put rockets underneath this province, lift it up into the air, remove all of Quebec. We'd give time for all the citizens to evacuate, all right? We'll let all the Quebecois get out, put them in the Maritimes, and, if they started trying to speak French to any of the government officials, we'd just put them right back on the province. And we lift them up, and we'd fly them Ultron style right in like the Gulf of Mexico, Caribbean area. Get them real high up, like in the stratosphere, almost in space. Drop them. All of those islands completely wiped out. All extinct, annihilated. And if we do the calculations right, it can stop. We'll stop the wave right about at the tip of Florida. And if we can take out like half the population of Florida, even better. So now we don't have to worry about Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, any of those places. Now we just got Mexico, Brazil, a couple of those places. So what do we do about them? Well, I would say, that disease that they've got in China, take all the people who have that disease in that country, in all those cities, move the whole city, because right now there's entire cities that are quarantined. So take the whole city, unquarantine it, airdrop them all across Central and South America, and just kind of wait. And you know what? If you want to speed things up even more, throw like a few bags of cocaine into the country, give everyone a gun, it'll just sort itself out. So now, Central and South America are all but cleaned up. The only people who are left are the strongest or the best drug lords. So now we got a couple hundred Scarfaces left. There's no problem with that. You know, American government is great at telling, oh, the FBI is just going to go in and neutralize the situation. In other words, they're going to go in and kill everyone. Now, that could end up being like an all-out war thing. Fortunately, you now have a bunch of angry Chinese people because a lot of their people were killed. So now the Chinese government sends a bunch of its military to occupy South America. Little do they know, Americans turn on the Chinese as well. So now the Chinese are all wiped out after they've killed off most of the people who were left in South and Central America. And the Americans, well, hopefully most of them get killed too. So that's fine. In other words, hopefully what I would say is 3 armies enter Brazil, none of them come out. So now China has lost some of its population and some of its military strength. Central and South America almost completely vacant. The U.S. has lost some of its military power as well. So now we're starting to even things out. Now, here's the next step. Europe is just still fucking around all this time. I don't know what they're doing. You know what? They probably joined in on one of these fights at some point for absolutely no reason other than to maybe pick up a few gold coins and a couple of priceless artifacts along the way. That's usually what Europe does. So to solve their problem, they are pretty bad about dense population too. But they're also pretty good about keeping the peace so far. They just kind of slowly sit and fester in poverty and disgusting filth. That's what they're doing right now. All we gotta do, and this is the part I'm not sure about, we need to somehow convince all of the Eastern European countries that they need to go to war with all of the Slavic countries. Because now Russia and Putin are basically going to be the strongest military power left alive. Now, what I'm saying is, if we can get all the European countries to merge together, because right now they're just too fucking small, get them all to come together and they're just one country. Now they look like a significant threat, and now they're going to be all turbulent. Because see, that's what happens when you have a small ass country with tons of people in it. It's super crammed and disease and filth and it's shit. If you have a big country with lots of people, just look at China. It's arguably even worse because now there's political shit going on. Everyone's crazy and everyone's losing their shit, and they're trying to build stuff and build an economy and trying to have industry and tourism and all the other jack shit, and none of it works, and it's all fucked. In Europe right now, they just kind of sit, like none of the governments are big enough to be taken seriously. Like we heard from the German government 2 times in like the last decade. One time was when Mussolini's son was running again. Didn't work out. And now Germany was saying like they thought that Donald Trump was like the biggest threat to world peace of the world leaders. That's the 2 times I've heard about Germany in the media since like all decade, literally since 2010. So yeah, those countries, like, they're doing fine. Some of them have good economies, some of them have terrible. Usually it fluctuates. Most of them is like, oh, it goes up and down, up and down. It's usually down, so it's fine. Most of them joined the European Union, which is helpful for them. Obviously, UK didn't want to do that. So another option would be to get the UK to actually Brexit, because they did not do that at all. But if they actually Brexit properly, get them to go to war with the European Union, could work. And then Russia just needs to go to war with Iran and all the rest of the Middle East, honestly. US needs to stop fucking around in there, because you guys, look, you're not that great. Let's be honest. You helped win World War II exclusively because of the atom bomb. And that was because you had some real smart scientists. Hell, a lot of them were German. So yeah, you did a real fucking great. Or like Swiss or something. British. You had the atom bomb, great. Russia won World War II, let's be honest. Germany lost themselves World War II by attacking Russia. So, by the same token, get literally anyone to try and attack Russia, and they'll just destroy themselves. Russia will probably be fine, but they'll be slightly weakened because at least a couple people got to get shot, right? And all you got to do is really just neuter them, kill Putin somehow, and then it's taken care of. U.S., why are you fucking around in Iran or the Middle East or any of that? Like, you're trying to set up democracy? Okay, great. What do you fucking do? You really think you can win a fight against anyone? You lost to a bunch of rice farmers in Vietnam. That's just a fact. You almost got bombed to shit by Cuba. They're an island the size of my eye. You haven't beaten anyone. Except the British. Now, if America wants to go to war with the British, I'm all for it. Because whoever wins, it doesn't matter. Whoever wins, hopefully America. Not even because I care about America because it's my country. It doesn't even really matter that much. It's just so fucking funny to think about the possibility that Britain could lose another war against the U.S. because they'd be so fucking pissed about it. God, that would be hilarious. It's just the novelty of it is so great. Can you imagine that in the news? U.S. goes to war against Britain for a second time. Can you imagine if they lost again? Oh, they'd be so furious. They lost the 13 colonies once, and then we'd just like send all our tea to Boston just so they could dump it in the harbor for no reason at all. Just for the hell of it. It'd be wonderful. And then you might be wondering where Canada sits in all this. The way I see it, they don't have to do anything. Just like they had no reason to get involved in World War II. It's just because they were British subjects. Oh, we gotta go fight for the Queen. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything. Let the Queen die. She's gonna die at some point. Let Britain fall. Let U.S. fall. Honestly, if the U.S. falls, or hopefully they win against Britain. But they'll be weakened, and then if someone else comes in, Russia, Iran, someone comes and takes them out, it's fine too. Canadians, you get to move south. And then the world will be at order, because now we'll be we'll be like 2 billion people down in the population at this point. All of India is gone. All of Central and South America is gone. Basically, the Southern Hemisphere hardly exists. Australia, we're going to leave alone, because really, they're getting a raw deal as it is. They're fucked. Like, no, not even kidding. Let's just leave them alone. Canada is going to occupy all of North America. South America and Central America, I think they're just going to become permanent tourist zones. We'll have a few Chinese folks in there. Chinese are going to pretty much occupy India and China, which is going to be a much more regular spread. The Europeans can be wherever the fuck they want in Eurasia. Don't really care where they go. They can be in the Middle East, they can be in Russia, they can be in any European country, because they're all the fucking same. UK hopefully gets destroyed. It's all going to be part of the EU. There's going to be no one yapping about we want to be our own country, because they're not going to have a currency anymore. They're not going to have a government anymore. Not going to have a royal family. Finally, royalty will be abolished, because the Indians also have whatever, the Rajas and shit. They're all going to be dead. All the Indian billionaires with their expensive cars, all dead. And so all we're going to have left is Canadians in North America, Europeans in Europe, just Europeans. No Germans, no French, no anything. If the French died somewhere along that, they'll surrender, but if we just kill them anyways, that even better. No French, definitely no Quebecois. They were the first to go. All Europeans are all the same, one homogenous mixture of people. Russians, neutered, heavily neutered. They're just happy to happy to be here. Maybe we can cut a few more slices out of Russia. That'd be nice. It's kind of fucked how big they are. Just take all the southern bits, take all the warm parts. They can just have Stalingrad. And then the Middle East, also occupied by Europe. It all becomes part of Eurasia, It's 1984 shit. So you got Russia, you got Eurasia, North America, whatever the hell they're going to do in South America, I don't really care. Australia's fine. And then China. China's going to be everything else. I forgot to think about North Korea here. I would just leave it. Because they're way in the corner of the world. China's going to be so far spread out at this point. Hell, if China splits its population in half by moving half to India, North Korea's probably going to think that they're weakened and want to take it back. Japan also probably wants to get back because let's face it, all China does is break apart and then go to war with itself and then come back. China's been taken over countless times. The Mongols got in, the Japanese got in, everyone's gotten in, but they always bounce back because hell, I mean, like you would say what you will, but you gotta admire their resolve. They bounce back like hell. As a result, like I say, you get tons of different like subcultures, minorities, basically different races and languages, but it's still China. So the way I see it, if you split that massive ass population up, everyone's gonna want a bite of the apple. They might fight themselves. They're gonna fight hopefully North Korea and Japan, and then everything's gonna fall apart. It's gonna come back together again. And if it comes back together and it's like China gets Korea and Japan, fine. Better yet, South Korea gets to move into North Korea, and it's all just Korea again. And then honestly, the entire country at this point, there's not going to be any point in doing it because all Korea right now is like there's North Korea, which is just nuclear silo, and then there's South Korea. So if we can get rid of all North Korea, tear down all those missiles and whatever, get South Korea in there, the entire country can basically just become an esports league tournament zone, right? So anyone who wants to go compete in their League of Legends or whatever, you just fly to Korea. It'll just be Korea, and that's where you have your tournament. And the whole country can basically be like walled off and turned into a stadium. I had another thought actually, because like I said, we're gonna flood the Caribbean with Quebec, right? So that's gonna leave a lot of debris from Quebec. So we're actually gonna end up with even more islands in the Caribbean, all completely unpopulated. So we got that now. So we got tons of islands in the Caribbean, an empty South America, and then like there's still Hawaii somewhere over there. So man, that's gonna be an awesome vacation spot the way I see it. In fact, I don't know if you guys have heard about, they're starting to do these things now, which I think is gonna be really cool, where they're like making hotels underwater and stuff. I don't know if you've seen those, but like this is some legit shit. It's like you go underwater and they got the glass ceiling, glass walls, and so you can see all the shit outside. And it's just like a hotel. You just sleep, but you're underwater, and it sounds really fucking cool. Also great for population control because we're running out of land. I had another thought. Oh, of course, South America will become an entirely agricultural continent. Everything that gets grown, all the produce is going to be grown in South America and a little bit in North America. There's like 50,000 Canadians in total or something. So if they move into the U.S., there really is going to be like 3 people in every country, in like every province. So the rest of that land, man, the entire Midwest is just going to become like a farm, right? And then all you're going to have is the coasts. I wonder what the Canadians will do with like Disney World or something. Have fun with it. I don't know. So you guys will have you'll have your East Coast, your Maritimes, and you'll have your West Coast, you'll get Hollywood, and you'll still have, BC and whatever. The territories, you'll probably just abandon them, right, at this point? It'll just become like the southern half of Canada and all of the U.S. That'd make more sense. Alaska will finally be back with its home again. It'll all be connected. You can probably give up Hawaii, because who needs Hawaii? Hawaii can go back to, like I said, all the islands in the Caribbean. That whole thing can just become like a vacation zone. People you can go island hopping, do scuba diving. Think of all the ecosystems that will be created by all of Quebec crashing into the ocean. There'll be like, fish will evolve to eat poutine and live off of the oils. Hell, it'll be amazing. So then you'll have like, you can go scuba diving in those places, and you can just hop from island to island and just look at all the wildlife there, and then across the ocean in like all of South America is just going to be farmland, and it's just going to be like all this fertile land from all the decomposing corpses. It'll enrich the soil. And then in some of those places where the tides were raised by dropping all that landmass into the ocean, you can have those underwater like aquarium hotels, and you can like live there. It'll be great resort land. So I think the whole South America region, like that Pacific, I guess like Southern Pacific Ocean region, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be like a paradise. And then like all of North America is gonna be fine. Honestly, I think everything's gonna be great after that. I like this a lot. I really like this new world. It's gonna be like 5 billion people sharing the world. Hell yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.